What's up guys, and welcome back to another Wynand Crypto video. What if I revealed to you that BlackRock is secretly planning something massive with XRP? I know, you're probably thinking, here we go again with another clickbait theory, or there's absolutely no way BlackRock even cares about XRP. But before you click away, make sure to watch this video completely until the end because this could change everything for XRP holders. Look, when we're discussing BlackRock and XRP, there's one elephant in the room we can't ignore: the ETF situation. And let me tell you, the rumors are getting wild right now. Check this out. Watch this post that has been making waves in the XRP community. So we've got Mason Black Crypto dropping this bomb. Rumor alert: BlackRock XRP ETF filing imminent. Speculation is swirling that BlackRock may be preparing to file for an XRP ETF. If true, this could be massive for institutional adoption. Now here's the thing. Could this be absolutely game-changing? You bet it could. But here's where things get tricky. These BlackRock and XRP whispers have been floating around the crypto space for what feels like forever now. And here's the reality check we need to address. As of right now, BlackRock hasn't made any official announcements about an XRP ETF filing. Remember that fake filing drama back in November 2023? Yeah, we've been burned before. BlackRock hasn't stepped forward with any public confirmation about an XRP ETF. While us XRP holders stay optimistic, we've got to be smart about approaching these rumors until we get something concrete and official. But here's why I'm not dismissing this entirely and why I genuinely believe BlackRock has XRP on their radar. Let's talk facts. XRP has been an absolute monster performer since 2022. I'm talking about pure cyclical dominance here. Beyond that short-term view, XRP has been a cryptocurrency heavyweight since day one. It's been camping in the top 10 rankings forever, crushing it in DeFi, dominating tokenization services, and revolutionizing payment systems. And here's something huge. Ripple, which is a US-based company, has been pushing XRP adoption globally for over 10 years. XRP already has worldwide infrastructure locked and loaded because Ripple controls about 90% of the foreign exchange market. From BlackRock's perspective, this is a no-brainer investment opportunity. But here's the million-dollar question. If it is such an obvious play, why hasn't BlackRock filed for an XRP ETF yet? We need to dig into this. The buzz around these rumors got louder recently because of some major moves BlackRock made. They shifted over $560 million worth of Bitcoin to Coinbase and grabbed 95 million Ethereum for their ETFs. That's serious money movement right there. And then we got this insight from Austin King. Watch this. Austin King broke it down perfectly. Bitcoin's ETFs opened the door to a whole new class of investors. Ethereum and XRP are next. Now that investors understand Bitcoin is digital gold, they're asking what else can crypto accomplish. Ethereum smart contracts are the logical next step, and BlackRock is positioning itself strategically. He explained that cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and XRP bring actual utility to the table, not just hype and narratives. And that's exactly where major institutions are betting their capital will flow next. We're already witnessing institutional adoption around Ripple and XRP heating up like crazy. This is where the big money is focusing their attention right now. And get this, XRP has absolutely crushed both Bitcoin and Ethereum in performance over the past year. You could argue that XRP has completely demolished them since 2022. We're talking about over 1,000% gains from the 2022 lows. When you look at those numbers, XRP is hands down the dominant cryptocurrency this cycle. It's outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum by massive margins this cycle. The reason I'm hammering this point is because institutions are definitely noticing this performance. Companies are taking notice because they're considering adding XRP to their strategic reserves. XRP adoption has accelerated tremendously this year thanks to the election results and the US market opening up. Plus RLUSD, Ripple's stablecoin, is expanding at an incredible pace. All this momentum is happening and we're supposed to believe that BlackRock, the world's largest asset management company, is just ignoring it all? I find that incredibly hard to swallow. Put yourself in BlackRock's shoes for a second. Bitcoin ETFs, massive success. Ethereum ETFs, not so much. What's the next ETF they should bet on? You might think Solana, right? Let's actually compare XRP to Solana. Solana hasn't really delivered impressive performance over the past year, while XRP has significantly outperformed it, especially this year. So we've got the Ethereum ETF already, and it's been underwhelming. Solana, maybe it's definitely a possibility, but what's crushing all of them performance-wise? XRP. XRP has demolished Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Dogecoin, and BNB. If I'm sitting in BlackRock's boardroom and I'm thinking, Bitcoin was incredibly successful, Ethereum wasn't, XRP could be our next big winner. Why? Institutional grade adoption, massive market exposure, and XRP has been outperforming even our most successful digital asset ETF. The logical move, take a major bet on XRP, and here's the kicker, BlackRock is already starting to hint at this direction. And you guys, I have a special trick for you, which nobody seems to be using, and I cannot wrap my head around why, because if you sign up through my link down in the description onto the BTCC exchange, you get a 10% deposit bonus, and now stay with me here. Now here comes the important part. If you have any trading capital on any other exchange and you move it to your newly created BTCC account, you get, on top of your capital you moved, another 10% extra trading capital. As an example, so if you move or deposit 100k to your account, you get 10k for free. I'm not kidding. I really don't understand why nobody's doing this. To me, it really seems like people sometimes are too lazy or just don't like free money. I mean, like, I cannot make that account for you. You will need to do that yourself, alright? So let's jump back into the video. Check out what BlackRock's head of US equity ETFs said recently. Watch this.
There is a comfort and intelligence factor, also perhaps an allocative factor to this whole Bitcoin trade now that it's in an ETF format. Is it a situation in your mind where you are seeing evidence, Jay, that there are advisors or retail investors who are now in that kind of allocation comfort phase where they can say, hey, X% of my portfolio is going to go towards cryptocurrencies and specifically for something like Bitcoin?
Absolutely. I think the world's changing every day when it comes to that. You know, I thought about this in 3 stages. You know, first, you bring the product out. It's about access. You know, the second is you educate people about what it's providing access to. Bitcoin, what is it? How could it work in a portfolio? But the third stage is about implementation. People really taking that leap to allocate to it in a portfolio. Everyone's on different stages of the journey. We've certainly opened access with the launch of IBIT last year. Many people are learning about it from an educational perspective, but implementation is where we're starting to see some really good tailwinds. You know, BlackRock's own models have allocated to IBIT in some of the alternative models as a diversifier in a portfolio that behaves very differently from traditional assets. We've seen other institutional clients start to make allocations in their portfolios. We've seen some advisors making allocations. So this Step 2 and Step 3 around education and implementation, we're still very deep in those stages and continuing to see more progress, especially as the Bitcoin story resonates in this environment where people are really looking for global monetary alternatives amidst more uncertainty.
So Jay, speaking of those global monetary alternatives, is there in your mind maybe a hypothetical or even an estimated timeline for when these types of investors, retail or otherwise, institutions or otherwise, and or just investment advisors overall, start to get more comfortable with things that are not Bitcoin, but smaller ones? I'm thinking about Ethereum. Ether is one of them, maybe Solana, some of the other ones that people know but aren't as big as Bitcoin. Do you feel as though that comfort ramp is going to be there for some of those smaller currencies and coins as well in the crypto screen?
It's difficult to say, difficult to speculate on that. You know, Bitcoin, Dane said it, we're 17 months in, and I think various different people are in various different stages of that journey of understanding or implementing this asset. I think what's changed in the last month that's notable are the flows into our Ethereum ETF, ETHA, which has seen about $1 billion year to date, with the majority of that coming just in the last 3 or 4 weeks or so. It's an evolving landscape. You know, we're seeing there's certainly been some strong performance of late with Ethereum after difficult beginning of the year. We've seen some progress, particularly on the policy side, that could be more accommodative of things like stablecoins and other digital assets. And we've seen a big upgrade to Ethereum, which has brought kind of a new narrative into the space as well. So from our lens and the clients that we're speaking to, Bitcoin is still the vast majority of the conversations and the interest amongst professional investors, but we're starting to see Ethereum really pick up as well.
When asked about smaller cryptocurrencies beyond Bitcoin, specifically mentioning Ethereum, Solana, and others, their response was telling. While Bitcoin remains their primary focus, they're seeing Ethereum really picking up momentum as well. The focus is predominantly on Bitcoin and Ethereum. However, more conversations are happening around XRP. Once this hits BlackRock's radar fully, and I believe it's already there, things could move quickly. Remember this moment from 2024? BlackRock was directly asked about launching an XRP ETF, and Larry Fink said he couldn't answer that question. Remember this clip?
How about an XRP ETF? I know you got Ether out there. How about XRP? Can you answer that?
I can't. And you don't want me to.
I do.
Well,
He literally said he can't answer that. Now here's the big question. Why can't BlackRock answer that? Why hasn't BlackRock filed for an XRP ETF when it seems like the most logical choice, especially with all these ETF filings happening? Why the delay? Smoke Dog outlined some compelling reasons on X for why BlackRock is holding back on an XRP ETF filing, even though XRP is one of the most demanded altcoins for an ETF. Short-term regulatory uncertainty still hasn't fully clarified whether XRP and other crypto assets are securities or commodities. Even though courts have ruled XRP isn't a security, the SEC keeps delaying ETF decisions. Approvals are now pushed to June or October this year. BlackRock is waiting for complete regulatory clarity before making their move. Reason number 2. New institutional-grade derivatives. Major investors use futures to hedge and manage risk. Bitcoin and Ethereum have high-volume CME futures. XRP launched CME futures on May 19th with $19 million in volume on day 1. A major milestone, but the XRP futures market is still developing. Institutions typically wait for consistent activity and deeper liquidity before getting involved. Reason number 3. Liquidity considerations. XRP has strong market depth and ranks among the top altcoins in that category, but ETFs require high and stable liquidity to handle large inflows and outflows. The SEC monitors this closely. BlackRock may be waiting for XRP's liquidity to mature further. Reason number 4. Focus on current success. BlackRock's Bitcoin and ETH ETFs are pulling in massive inflows right now. They're focused on scaling what's already performing well. Reason number 5. Competitive timing. XRP and Solana are leading ETF application activity. BlackRock may be observing how the SEC handles these filings before jumping in. They're waiting for stronger demand and a better regulatory environment. Essentially, BlackRock is playing the waiting game. They're waiting for clearer regulations, deeper market maturity, and more sustained demand before making their calculated move. But I genuinely believe they already have plans for an XRP ETF filing. It makes complete sense from a market perspective. Bitcoin ETFs have been incredibly successful. Ethereum ETFs are starting to gain momentum now after a slow start, but XRP has outperformed both of these assets significantly. It crushed Solana too. Let me show you just how significant this outperformance has been. When XRP was up 527% over the past year, Ethereum was actually down almost 9%. Even Bitcoin, when XRP was up 527% in the last year, Bitcoin was only up about 47.5%. Think about this from BlackRock's perspective. If they want to capitalize on retail interest and ETF fees, and XRP is outperforming Bitcoin while generating massive traction and hype with huge demand, it makes perfect sense to monetize this hype and demand. With an ETF, XRP would be incredibly successful, making headlines everywhere. Every major news platform would be covering it. It would be unavoidable. They would make tremendous money from it. So why the holdup? Is it the legal case? Are they too focused on Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs right now? I think there's definitely a waiting game happening here, as Bloomberg has documented. But I also think something might be happening behind the scenes, and here's why I say that. Remember that interview with Larry Fink? This response was so weird. Watch this again.
How about an XRP ETF? I know you got Ether out there. How about XRP? Can you answer that?
I can't. And you don't want me to.
I do.
Well,
And that was a wrap on this deep dive into BlackRock's potential XRP moves. What do you think? Are they secretly planning something massive, or am I reading too much into the signals? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this analysis got you hyped about XRP's future, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell, because I'm constantly dropping free content like this. Wynand Crypto out.